Hey guys, it's Halo553. Welcome back to another Beyblade X unboxing and review. Today we're going to be checking out the next starter pack from Wave 8 of Hasbro, that being Ring Aether. Now going over the packaging quickly, as you can see the packaging is very similar to Valor Bison, except we just have more BX Infinity stuff on it. And then flipping onto the back of the box, it gives you a full breakdown of everything you get in the starter. So of course we have the Ring Aether blade itself. Ratchet is 080, and then we have the disc spike bit. So let's get into the starter pack. So here is Ring Aether out of the packaging. Now this bay has definitely had a very interesting release schedule. This first got released in Canada and then got cited here in Australia at Toy World. And this was before it got announced by Takara as the prize bay in Random Booster Volume 11. So very interesting situation for this bay to have been released in the way it has been. It's a bit weird, but still a really exciting release nonetheless, as this is also the first time that a prize bay has been made into a starter pack, I'm pretty sure. But let's now take a deep dive into all the parts that you do get with Ring Aether. So first off, we have the Ring Aether blade itself. So this is a BX Infinity / expand release, so the metal extends past the launch hooks and onto the gear chip. Now unlike Drawn Strike and Shadow Horus, the metal isn't fully covering the entire gear chip. It's only covering about half of it, as if you flip it underneath, and you can kind of tell from the top as well, that there is actually a bit more plastic on one side. So as a result, this does lead to Ring Aether being a bit unbalanced. Now, main reason that did that was because so this doesn't end up like being another wizard rod. That's one of the main reasons, but it is, you can use this to your advantage. Sometimes you can use that imbalance to have it more leaning so one way, so you can have some really nice counter attacks. And plus, you can also use that to help better protect your Ratchet and Bit too. But this is a really decent defense type blade. I wouldn't say it's the best defense type they've put out so far, but it definitely works really well and has some really great stamina despite that imbalance. So yeah, really fun blade to mess with. Probably not my favorite out of the expand line so far, but it's definitely a really fun one to mess with. Next up, we have the 080 Ratchet. So 0 attrition points at the 80 height. Not the best Ratchet. These Ratchets do have a tendency to scrape. But this is the first release of this Ratchet since Girth Circle in the Jewel Pack, and the first appearance of it in a starter, which is, I would say, pretty cool. And the colors on this 080 do look really nice. So, not the best Ratchet. If you are planning on using the zero-sided Ratchets, would definitely recommend 070 a lot more. That works a lot better. But even still, this is a nice Ratchet to get your hands on at least, if you haven't picked up the Girth Circle Dual Pack at least. Finally, we have probably the most controversial part of this release. We have Disc Spike. Now, this bit has definitely probably been more of a talking point compared to Ring Aether. So it is a new variation of the spike bit, which I think itself is pretty cool, and it's the first disc bit since Disc Ball. So the disc around the spike bit is supposed to help keep the bay upright but in the cost of stamina, which it can do pretty well. And performance wise, Disc Spike actually does really well, and this could have potentially have been the best spike bit that Takara has made, but they did cock it up. The main thing that does let this bit down massively is its burst resistance. This has next to none, especially compared to other defense type bits out right now. This is what really lets this spike down, as it takes nothing to burst it. Bumping the rail, getting even attacked once by an attack type, I mean, you could probably breathe on it, it'll probably burst. So yeah, it's not a great bit. Granted, if you are pitting this bit up against stamina and defense types, you should be okay because not as much aggressive contact. But if you are pitting this against attack types, yeah, you're going to be giving up those points massively. So not the best bit. It could have been really solid, but unfortunately it isn't. With this combination of parts, it makes Ring Aether a defense type. So let's now head over to the scales and weigh up all the parts that we get with this bay. Alright, let's now get some weights for Ring Aether / Heaven's Ring. So this spike, this one weighs 3.11 grams. The 080 ratchet is 7.53. And then the Ring Aether blade, this one weighs 37.11 grams, so not a bad weight for it. Now granted, when you compare this to Drawn Strike, the other BX Infinity Bay out right now, it is a lot lighter compared to Strike, but even still, 37.1 grams is still a really good weight, especially for a defense type. So let's put the whole bay together. So 80 and this spike. So altogether, Ring Aether weighs 47.76 grams. So let's now head out to the stadium and do some test spins and some test battles. Alright, now we're gonna do some test spins and battles with Ring Aether / Heaven's Ring. So let's try this out. Now this bike, it should be alright, but the burst resistance on that bit is really what's going to let this bay down, especially since it's at the 80 height. So I'll do a few test battles with the stock combo first, and then we'll switch it to a bit more of a more viable combo for Ring. But I will say, like, Ring Aether definitely got a bit overshadowed by Glory Valkyrie, because everyone's been really liking Glory Valkyrie, but this one's still really good. But let's now try out Ring Aether against some opponents. I would honestly say that the performance of this spike is really good, but it's just the burst resistance that's the problem. Like, if it actually had standard burst resistance for a defense type bit, this actually could have been really solid. yeah, this spike, like I said again, the if it had standard burst resistance, the performance on this bit is actually really good. That's the first burst of this spike throughout these tests. As you can see, when you put it up against attack types, it is gonna burst constantly. Okay, I was not expecting Hover to burst, but alright. So that is it for my look at Ring Aether. Really like this bay overall. I think the blade itself is really fun to mess with. While it's probably not my favorite out of the expand line so far, it's a really fun defense type to mess with. Now the imbalance, I know a few people are going to be disappointed in that. They kind of wish it wasn't imbalance, but you know the reason why they did it, because they don't want another Wizard Rod basically out there. But really the main disappointing aspect of this release though is definitely Disc Spike. Had Disc Spike had standard burst resistance like other defense type bits, this actually could have been a really nice defense type bit to use. But because of its much lower burst resistance than any other bit on the market right now, it makes it one of the worst bits you could use, which is really disappointing. I did have initial hope for Disc Spike, and I thought really the burst resistance on the box was a bit exaggerated, but it sadly isn't. But I can still recommend you trying to pick up this release if you spot it, mainly the Hasbro starter here, as I wouldn't really recommend trying to get it from the random booster. But overall, really like this bay. So my final thoughts on Ring Aether are pretty good for the most part. The blade itself, I think, is really fun to use, and I can definitely see a few people potentially using this in their decks. Maybe it's just a way to just stop using Wizard Rod, but I wouldn't say it's a full replacement. Disc Spike, just a bit disappointing. It could have been one of the best spike bits we've gotten, but it just ends up being one of the worst bits you can use. But apart from that, I can definitely still recommend you try to pick this bay up. Mainly the starter pack. I wouldn't recommend trying to get it for the random booster, especially with its prices right now. But honestly, I can definitely recommend the starter pack if you do spot it. But that's going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. and also check out all my other friends' channels and the links in the description below. So till then, I'll see you all in the next video.